Stop sharing for, nope, guess not. Okay. I didn't see the button on my end. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our resource sharing webinar. And we have 2 hours allotted for this. I suspect it probably won't take that long for the actual presentation portion, but we did want to make sure that we had plenty of time for any questions that people may have. So please feel free to put them in the chat or speak up. And you can do this at any point in the presentation, or if you want to wait until the end, that's fine too. So I'm just going to stop my video. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is the FedEx website. Here you'll see a screenshot of what a filled out shipment form looks like, and I will walk you through the steps of doing that. Do you see the FedEx website now, or do you still see the slides?
FedEx website.
Okay. Sorry, I'm still not 100% used to sharing my screen with WebEx. So we'll go ahead and log in. And now once you're logged in, well, sometimes it takes a minute to load, and sometimes you'll see weird things like this because they are constantly working on the website, trying to bring parity between the old version and the new version. The old version had been estimated to be out of service by June of last year, but that's not the case. So you'll still encounter the occasional glitch or issue here or there. But first, we're going to go click on shipping and go to create a shipment. Let that load. Sometimes it takes a while to load. Now, this is the old version of the Ship Manager. As far as I'm aware, when you all are using the Ship Manager, it takes you directly to the new version. For some reason, our account still takes us to the old version first. But if you are taken to the old version, we recommend that you switch to the new version, and you can do that by clicking Try It Now here. So this is the Ship Manager screen, and I am going to create a test shipment. You'll see that our account's address is already automatically filled in the Ship From section. This should be the case for you, so you shouldn't have to make any changes here, and you can just leave it as is. To search for an address, you just have to type in a minimum of the first 3 letters. So I'm going to go with W-A-Y for Wayne. So we'll click on Wayne Resource Sharing. That's not supposed to happen. Okay, let's see. It's supposed to automatically fill in. It was working properly earlier. Of course, this had to happen while we were trying to demonstrate. Let me try a different address. There we go. Okay, so you'll see it filled in all of this information. A few things to note is you do not want to check this box where it says this is a residential address. we get charged extra for residential address deliveries, and none of our addresses are residential, so you'll want to make sure you leave that unchecked. You'll have no reason to update the recipient, or you should have no reason to update the recipient in your address book, so you leave that unchecked there as well. Under packaging, it should automatically default to your packaging, and you will leave that as is. You leave this box unchecked where it says purchase a higher limit of liability from FedEx. You enter the number of packages here and the weight. The weight is required, so I'm going to go ahead and just put in 10 pounds. Dimensions are not required, and we actually recommend that you do not fill those in anyway, because if there's a difference between what you enter as the dimensions and what FedEx measures as the dimensions, we can get an additional charge for that as well. Then scrolling up here to service details, the ship date will be automatically set to the day that you are creating the shipment. If you are creating it on a day that you do not typically ship out, you would want to select the ship date that you usually have scheduled for pickups. Otherwise, if the day you are shipping is the day you're creating, you can just leave it as is. FedEx Ground should automatically be selected, and you will leave that as is because we only ship to FedEx Ground, and you will see here that if you try to select something else, it only lists FedEx Ground. All of these service options you can leave unchecked as is, and you don't need to check them. The add shipment references will always automatically be checked. You don't need to uncheck it, but just leave this information here blank. Scroll down to pickup drop off. It should automatically be set to I have already scheduled a pickup at my location, and you'll want to leave that as is. And then finally down here to billing details, it will say bill transportation cost to my account. As you see, it has ours NC Cardinal admin because that is what I'm logged in under, but based on your library, you will see yours listed here. But again, you should not need to change that. As far as adding shipment notifications, we have received some reports that staff are unable to create a shipment unless they have an email included for the notifications. I have not been able to recreate that on my end, but if you need to do that, then you would just check this box and add your email address here. And since you're the shipper, you would add your email address. But again, like I said, I haven't been able to recreate that issue on my end, so I just leave it unchecked. And once all of that information is filled out, you'll see here an estimated delivery date as well as the cost, which you can see the separation of the charges here by clicking View Breakdown. Finally, all you have to do is click Finalize. And you're all set to go. You can print your shipping labels from here. We obviously are not actually shipping anything, so I will go ahead and cancel the shipment. And now you'll see we have 0 shipments here because we don't ever actually ship out anything. Oh. Sorry, I see a question here. How important is changing the date? Is there a charge if I don't change the date, or is there a matter for our internal tracking? So they won't actually charge you until a package is scanned. So the date isn't that important because you all have already pre-scheduled shipping dates. So if you accidentally say, you create your shipment and your shipments don't go out until tomorrow, but you left the date as is today, it shouldn't be an issue because they won't scan it until the following day, and then the charge is based on when they scan it. So it would be kind of like for your own internal tracking. You're welcome. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to go over is filing a claim with FedEx. Unfortunately, this is not something that I can walk you through on the website like I can creating a shipment, but I can show you how to get there and then list out the steps for you. So first, we're going to go to support. We're going to select file a claim. Now, when a receiving library receives damaged shipments from FedEx, they should reach out to the sending library and share images and a shared item bucket containing the damaged items. And this can be built from the transit list. The sending library is the one that is responsible for submitting the damage claim. So when we go here to start a claim, we'll click that button. You may see this screen here. This is not the screen that you're supposed to see. This is another one of those issues that is currently occurring on the website. If you see it, what you may think you need to do is select your account from here, and I'll use Forsyth as an example and click continue. And here it'll ask you for access from the account administrator. We discovered recently that whenever someone fills out this information, no one seems to know where the request actually goes. We had assumed that either Benjamin or I would receive an email notification because we are the administrators on our administrative account. But we do not receive them, and FedEx does not seem to know where they go either. So you'll basically just be left hanging if you follow through with this. So let's go ahead and cancel. So to actually be able to file a claim online, there's a workaround. And what you have to do is open an incognito window. Go back to FedEx, log in here. Click on support, file a claim, and we'll click start a claim again. And this is the screen that you should see and go to file a claim. The fact that you can access it in an incognito window suggested to me that it may be a cache issue, but I have tried hard resets clearing my cache on any number of pages on the FedEx website, and I still cannot get this page to come up. So if any of you happen to be playing around one day and are able to figure out how to get it to come up, please let us know. But in the meantime, it's a definite way to get to the proper screen if you use an incognito window. And you would enter your tracking number here, and you would select the type of issue that you're filing the claim for. And so, like I said, unfortunately, I can't actually walk you through it, but we can go over the steps. So let me bring back this over here. Some important information to keep in mind is FedEx recommends filing any claims of damaged, lost, or missing items electronically via their website. However, you can file a claim over the phone by calling customer support. We learned that while we were trying to figure out what was going. Let's see. I'm sorry, I see you're using Legacy Center. Should we use that or the new FedEx Claims Center? So let me make sure. So this one right here, is that the Legacy Center? Because this is all I've ever seen, so I didn't even know that the Claims Center had changed. I had assumed that I'm sorry. Robert says he gets an option between that and the new one. Okay. I haven't seen that, but we've been told that any time you have where you can use a new version of something in the FedEx website, use the new version. So if you see something different than this screen right here, when you go to file a claim, if it lets you file a claim, then go ahead and use that. But if it's the screen where it's asking for you to request permission from an administrator, then you won't be able to use that one. But again, like I said, you can file a claim over the phone if necessary. Claims for damaged or missing contents must be done no later than 60 calendar days from the shipment date, while claims for undelivered or lost shipments must be filed within 9 months of the shipment date. FedEx will notify you if your claim requires an inspection, and the sending library will be compensated up to $100. This compensation will be issued as a paper check. And note that since we do not have additional insurance on any packages that are sent out, the maximum amount of money issued for a claim will be $100. And so here are the specific steps for filing a claim. It may be a bit different depending on the version you have. One of the difficulties with offering these kinds of demonstrations with the FedEx website is everyone seems to see something different depending on the time of day or day of the week. Let's see, Mary asked, do we get a check or does it go to NC Cardinal? The check will be sent to the shipping library that filed the claim. So to start a claim, you'll enter your tracking number and select your claim type as we saw, and then you will complete the online claim form. You will want to add supporting documentation either while you're filing your claim, or you can go back to it later and add it then. You can drag and drop documents from your computer onto the claim, or you can upload them. Supporting documents that they recommend can include a scan of a FedEx US air bill. That wouldn't apply to us since we're FedEx. I'm sorry, I was checking the chat. Deanna said you also get back your shipping costs when you file a claim for a lost shipment, which is appreciated. That's good to know. Thank you. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, FedEx Ship Manager printout and/or FedEx ground pickup record. Photos of the package and damaged contents if applicable. Those we would recommend so that they can see what they look like. And if you include the photos, then they probably won't need to inspect the materials if they can see the damage just from the photos. They also recommend serial numbers of damaged or lost merchandise. That wouldn't necessarily apply to our materials, but you could include barcode numbers or ISBNs. Proof of value documentation, such as a copy of the original invoice from the vendor or supplier from when you purchased the materials, a retail invoice or receipt, a final confirmation screen of an online order with proof of payment, an itemized repair invoice or statement of non-repair, and an appraisals or expense statement. Again, not all of these will apply to us because of the nature of our materials. Then you'll submit your online claim form, you review your information, submit the form, and then print the case number page for your records. And if there needs to be an inspection, you can schedule one with FedEx or conduct your own. FedEx will let you know whether or not one is required. You will need to maintain the shipment's original packaging, including cartons and contents, for inspection, and keep them until your claim is resolved. In some cases, depending on the damage of the package, or if you have things with mold, for example, you may not, it may not be possible for you to keep the items, in which case, we would say document thoroughly with pictures, just to make sure that they're seeing the actual materials. We had an incident once where a library had shipped back the damaged materials, including the damaged box, to the sending library, and they included it in a new box, obviously, because the old one was damaged. And when FedEx came to inspect the materials, for some reason, they only inspected the box, the new box that the materials were in. They didn't bother to inspect the materials inside the box. So it's always important to just make sure, if you're meeting with an individual, to let them know which box it is that they need to inspect and which materials. You can also conduct your own package inspections for FedEx ground shipments if the declared value is greater than $100 or less than $1,000. Again, even if the declared value is over $100, you will only be able to get $100 back for reimbursement. And they have an inspection report that you can download and complete, and add any attachments or images to that. And then once all of this has been done, you can log in to check on the status of your claim online, or to request email updates. Some tips and tricks for filing a claim. Just as a reminder, claims for damaged or missing contents must be done no later than 60 calendar days from the shipment date. Claims for undelivered or lost shipments must be filed within 9 months of the shipment date. You will need your tracking number to submit a claim online. You can file a claim and include supporting documentation or add it later. As I said, simply drag and drop the documents from your desktop to your claim form. For damaged items, you want to attach documentation such as proof of value, an invoice or appraisal, and photos of the damage. It is recommended to have the value of the damaged items on hand when you make the claim. One time I had to file a claim when I was still working at Wayne County, and I basically just pulled up the orders for the materials from when I had submitted them through Baker and Taylor and Ingram, that showed how much we paid for them, and that was considered enough information along with the photos of the damage. But it would probably be better if you have like an actual receipt that you can use. Also, it is good to scan and record the barcodes of the damaged items into a shared item bucket or a spreadsheet for reference, and this you can share with the shipping library if you are the receiving library, or vice versa, so that both libraries will know which of their materials were lost or damaged. And you'll want to keep the FedEx tracking number for the return on hand to refer to the claims case as it proceeds. Now, we've mentioned transit lists so far through this process, and this is one way that you can look and see what materials may have been included in the shipment. A lot of libraries will keep a running tally in like an Excel spreadsheet of the materials that they ship out with each shipment. That's a good idea to do. If you don't do that, or if even you just want another way of keeping track of the materials, you can access the transit lists in Evergreen, and I'll show you how to do that now. So you're going to go from administration to local administration, and then transit list. So on this screen, you can choose to see transits to your library or transits from your library. You can edit the dates here. So if I wanted to see transits from May 1st through today, we can set that. And you're going to see the source library and the destination library. Something that Llewellyn had to tweak based on a request from a library was we can't show the count, like the system in this list. You can only show the branch where a library, the branch where a book or other material is coming from and the branch it's going to. But what Llewellyn did is if you click on the branch name here, it will take you to our knowledge book, and at the very top, it's going to show the library system that that branch belongs to. So go back here. So from here, you can add items to a bucket. And this is one thing you can do if you want to share that bucket with the other library. You would we'll select a few here. And I'm not actually going to add these to a bucket because I'm on production, but you can create a new bucket or add it to an existing bucket. And then you would share that bucket ID with the other library so they can see which of their materials were included in the damage. And then they can go into their catalog and they can mark those items damaged or lost as necessary. So these are some of the commonly reported issues that we've encountered with resource sharing. One is do not tape, paper clip, or otherwise attach a damage slip to the item. Instead, you should place the slip either inside the item or, if necessary, use a rubber band to keep it with the item. Some libraries will actually turn the slip into a sleeve of sorts by using an additional piece of paper taped to the back of it that lets you slide it on and off of the cover of the book easily. Do not pack DVDs or audiobooks in with books without the proper padding and protection. It is recommended that you place them inside smaller boxes within the larger box, or use padded envelopes or wrap them in bubble wrap. If you're just laying them on top of the books in your box, there's a very good chance that what you had as the top of your box will become the bottom of the box by the time it arrives. And so the DVDs or audiobooks would be crushed by the weight of the books. You should not send a single item at a time whenever possible. It's better to hold on to the item until you have other items to send along with it. Sometimes you may have to just go ahead and send a single item if you've gone several weeks without having any other items to send to that library. But it's good to wait at least a few days and see if you have more materials going. Do not discard another library's item without first consulting the owning library. By extension, do not return a damaged item to its owning library if the item is so damaged, for example, from water, that you have to place the item in a plastic bag so it will not affect other items in the shipment. And that happened once. A library received a water damaged book in resource sharing that was still soaking wet. It had at least been in a plastic bag, but if it's that bad off, it's best to just not send. Let's see, Jamie asked, unless it's to fill a hold, right, for sending one single item at a time. I would say even if it's a hold, wait a couple days at least to see if there are other items. But if no other items come, then yeah, you would want to go ahead and send it on. You can wait a bit longer if you're just shipping it back to its owning library and there are no holds. We just want to try and consolidate as many shipments together as possible. Do not send a replacement item to another library without first consulting the owner library. We have this list put in the Cardinal knowledge books. This is helpful. Yes, that's absolutely something we can do. And we can also, after the presentation, if any of you would like to have these slides, then let's see, Jamie said I'm on a once per week schedule. So then in your case, yeah, just so people aren't waiting too long for their materials, I would say go ahead. Again, it's going to be, and it's another kind of one of those cases where it's going to be on a case by case basis. Do not use courier packs, poly bags, and bubble mailers that exceed the measurements of 18 inches along their longest side, 13 inches along their second longest side, and or 5 inches in height. This is something that we often get docked for by FedEx, is these measurements and these packs. They charge us an additional handling charge for those. But really, it's best not to use courier packs or poly bags, period, except as packing material in a box, both because they don't have any real protection for the materials inside of them. Bubble mailers are okay, though, so long as they do not exceed those measurements. And yes, I will share copies of these slides with anyone who would like to request them. A few more reported issues. Do not reuse boxes that are falling apart or otherwise so heavily damaged that they require excessive amounts of tape to be held together. We occasionally see this where a box has split open on multiple sides and people have used tape to just kind of hold it all together and hope that it doesn't burst open. If the box is falling apart that badly, it's best to just discard it. We do want you to try and recycle your shipping materials as much as possible, but there does come a point when it's better to just toss them. Do not leave old shipping labels on your packages. Ideally, you would either remove them entirely or cover them up. If that's not an option, use a black marker to black them out as much as possible so that FedEx will not accidentally mistake them for the current shipping label. And when you go to cover them up, you can cover them up with the new shipping label, or even just put like a blank sheet of paper over it and then put the new label over top of that. If there are multiple barcodes or shipping labels on the package, there's a good chance FedEx is going to scan the wrong one. Always remember, do not send an item in such shape that you would not check it out to yourself or to your patrons. Yes, Mary said, especially cover up, black out the scannable stuff. Yes, absolutely. You should not attempt to repair another library's damaged materials. Special case, if it's a DVD or CD that needs to be cleaned, it's generally acceptable to clean it if you have one of those disc doctors. However, it is recommended that you include a note to the owning library that the disc was cleaned. There was a case where one library was taping the spines of another library's books to keep them held together, and we know their heart was in the right place, but they were using like electrical tape or duct tape and were actually covering up the call numbers on the spines. So the owning libraries were having to try and remove that tape when they received them or create new spine labels from scratch. Let's see, a couple more comments. Amy asked, can we try to limit the use of air packs? They aren't very protective and are hard to store. By air packs, do you mean those big, almost like large bubble wrap? They're usually kind of greenish, and they're often attached to each other, but they're perforated. They're just kind of large. I'm having a hard time describing them, so yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yes, those. Yeah, if they're an issue when packing, and you find that they're not very helpful, I would say not to use them. Let's see. And Robert asked, what about the little secondary tags on boxes, the ones that FedEx adds? Those typically shouldn't be a problem, because they don't have, I don't recall them having barcodes on them. If they look like they have anything on them that could potentially be scanned, then it would be good to cover them up or remove them. But since FedEx adds them themselves, theoretically, FedEx would know not to scan those. See, Mary said, usually those air packs are deflated when we receive the packages. Yeah, I would say if you needed to deflate them to use them as just packing material to kind of like, fill in some empty gaps in the box, you could kind of like using newspaper or other things. But if they're not protecting materials like they should be and they're getting deflated anyway, then it's probably best not to use them. Two important ones to always remember are to communicate with staff from other libraries whenever questions arise regarding damages, fines, or fees, and to document any damage you come across, particularly when an item is sent, when an item is received, and when an item is returned. If you're sending out an item that has some damage on it, but it's not so damaged that it needs to be discarded or weeded, it's always a good idea to put a note either on a slip or maybe an item alert that says, we have if you're the owning library, say, we have already assessed this item for damage. We know it's there. It's okay to check out. And that way the receiving library will know beforehand that it wasn't caused by their patron. Same if an item is received back from a patron with any damage, and say it's not damage that is worth charging them for, but it is there, you would want to note that we received this back damaged. We've assessed it, and it seems to have been caused by the patron, but we didn't think it was enough to charge them. And of course, when an item is returned, so that if you get it back through resource sharing, you may want to note that if there was damage caused while it was being shipped to you, that the damage was caused by the shipping and not by a patron or the other library. Mary said, I really like using the resource sharing note forms for this. Yes, that's a very good idea. Finally, remember that circulation bills such as overdue fees are determined by the circulating library, and lost or damaged material fees are determined by the owning library. This is something that we realize is kind of confusing and can be easy to forget, but we actually have a section in the knowledge book that kind of outlines this, and it's this page, right? No, I think I clicked on the wrong page. Sorry. Here we go. Old process. It explains how the circulation bills and the lost and damaged fees work, and it also provides some scenarios for how a patron may or may not be charged, depending on where they checked out a book and if they did it through resource sharing, or if they just happened to visit, say, a library in a different county from their home library. Some basic policies for damaged materials. One is, please try not to send damaged materials. As I mentioned before, it's always good to take a look at it and think to yourself, would I check this out to myself, or would I check it out to one of my patrons? And if you say no, then you really don't want to send it through resource sharing and should probably seriously consider weeding it or replacing it. Do not mark other libraries' materials damaged, missing, or lost without first consulting the owning library. Depending on your permissions, you may not even be able to do that. But if you are able, just make sure you check with the other library first. Reach out to owning libraries prior to assessing fees for damaged or lost materials. Document the damage with a damage slip and/or an item alert. Remember that lost or damaged fees that are assessed at a library not your own may not be voided or waived. You should always assess materials for damage. Just remember, you want to treat other libraries' materials the same way that you treat your own. And generally speaking, you should not attempt to repair another library's damaged item, except, as I previously mentioned, if it's a DVD or CD, you are allowed to clean those, but you would just want to let the owning library know that you did that. So what should you do when assessing damage fees? Different library, as I said, you want to treat all the materials as your own, even if they belong to another library. But different libraries may have different standards for what they feel is damaged enough to be worth charging the patron. This is why it is always good to reach out to the owning library first. This, of course, unfortunately, may mean that you might not have an answer for your patron immediately. So you will want to explain to them that since the item belongs to another library, it is ultimately up to the owning library whether or not to charge them for the item or to request a replacement copy. And you will let the patron know once you've spoken with the owning library. You should assess fees for damage whenever an item is returned damaged to your library. And remember, I keep hammering this point home, but it's one that we all need to remember, is it's always good to contact the owning library to determine whether a patron should be charged or if a replacement copy should be provided. You can find guidance in the knowledge book on how different libraries would like damaged or lost items handled. But even if a library has provided instructions, it is always a good idea to contact the library, even as just a courtesy. It is also entirely possible that their guidelines may not be up to date in the knowledge book. And so you may see that they say in the knowledge book, yes, we accept replacement copies. And you go ahead and send them a replacement copy without notifying them first. And they come back and say, oh, we've changed our policy and we no longer accept replacement copies. So one thing I would encourage everyone to do is take a look at that knowledge book page and just make sure that your policies are up to date. And if they aren't, please let us know and we will be happy to update them for you. If you are the owning library and have determined another library's patron should be charged for damage to your item, you should annotate the fees. Again, it would also be a good idea to contact the library directly as well, so they know ahead of time that you are charging their patron. Now, what do you do when a hold cannot be fulfilled? This may be more aimed at circulation staff who are kind of working on the front lines there than resource sharing necessarily, but it's a good feather to kind of have in your cap should you need it. As we know, there may be times when a hold cannot be fulfilled for one reason or another. But instead of canceling an existing hold and placing a new one, you have the option of retargeting a hold so that another item that is available on the record can be selected. This can be done from the patron's account by selecting the hold in question, clicking the Actions drop-down menu, and selecting Find Another Target from the list. And I can show you how to do that. So I have a test patron here. And they are fully fictional, so you are not seeing any of their personal information or anything like that. They have 2 holds. So let's say, for whatever reason, one of these holds could not be fulfilled. We would select that hold and go to Actions and find another target. And you'll notice that the barcode number changed there. One thing to keep in mind when you're retargeting a hold is that it only searches for other items attached to that specific record, that record being what you see here under the title. This means that if there are no other available items on the record, then retargeting essentially does nothing because it does not search for other bib records to find items. It only searches for items on that bib record. In cases where you may come across a situation like that, you will want to search the catalog for any other records that might have the item the patron is requesting. And then you can do one of 2 things. You can place a hold on that other record and cancel the hold on the previous record. Or if you find that the records are duplicates, go ahead and merge the records and then retarget the hold because all of the items will now be on that single record. And if you retarget the hold, it will try to capture one of the other items instead of the one that's currently on the patron account. Holds may also need to be retargeted whenever a new item is added to a record or after some types of item status changes. For instance, when an item is changed from on order to in process or in process to available. Let's see. Mary said, we usually do this or try to when we receive an item too damaged to give our patron. Can you retarget holds from the hold pull list too? I do believe you can. Let's see.
Yes, you can.
Okay, yes, you can. I was trying to find it's been so long since I've worked circulation. You can probably tell. We'll use this as an example here. You can also retarget the holds from the record itself, which I will go into in just a moment. Let's see, this may be an issue because I'm in next. Oh, no, there we go. So let's select that. Yep, there you go. Find another target. So you would select that. Let's go ahead. And again, this is next. So I'm free to break stuff. And it's disappeared from this pull list because it grabbed a hold, presumably from another library. One thing to note too is that, like, when you're changing the status of an item from, say, on order to in process, the system does not immediately recognize the newly added items as available to fill holds. If no action is taken to retarget a new item for holds, the item should appear on the pull list for holds requests within approximately 24 hours when it kind of recycles the holds. Additionally, instead of retargeting, staff may want to use the check-in modifiers, retarget local holds, and retarget all statuses to check in process items, which we can show. So if you have in process items that say have just come from tech services, you go to check them in to make them available. You can select retarget local holds and retarget all statuses here. Just keep in mind that those check-in modifiers are sticky, so you will want to make sure you uncheck them when you are done. Now let's go back to that test patron. And we're going to bring up these two records. I tried to pick a couple of records that I knew would have quite a few holds on them. And so this is what you do if you want to retarget holds from the bib record. You go to the View Holds tab. Increase that here. And you will highlight any items that have waiting for item or waiting for capture listed as their hold status. This instance here where it says waiting for item was a copy hold, meaning that it's only going to target that specific copy that was placed on holds. So it won't actually work to retarget, but these three here that are saying waiting for capture can be retargeted. So we will select those and we'll go up here to the actions and we'll click find another target. Say retarget the three holds. And it looks like one of them kept the same barcode, but the other two changed. And we can do this from this one here as well. And again, you have two waiting for items, but they were both copy holds. So retargeting them won't really do any good because they're specifically targeting those barcodes. But we'll select these. And it looks like, again, the first one didn't retarget, but I believe the other two did. Now, moving into kind of our last discussion piece are your resource sharing spaces. And yes, thank you, Robert. So presumably your pickup library wouldn't normally be Cardinal. That could have also been part of the issue. We have a Basecamp thread where libraries have shared pictures of their resource sharing areas. We highly recommend, whether you're new or looking to reorganize your space, taking a look at this thread. And if you're a library that has not shared images of your resource sharing space, we would love for you to please post in this thread, especially since we have new libraries joining the consortium in the future. Also, if you are just starting out with resource sharing, or perhaps training some new staff, or could just use some helpful reminders, we have 2 guides in the knowledge books that walk you through the process of preparing and packaging materials for resource sharing. We have a video tutorial that was put together by Johnston County that you can watch. And we also have a pictorial step-by-step guide that was put together by Polk County for us. If you are not on Basecamp or are on Basecamp and not part of the Cardinal resource sharing group, we would highly recommend it. You can request access by filling out the mailing list form in the knowledge books here by clicking submit a request, going to mailing list, and selecting resource sharing. It's a great resource for if you have general questions you want to ask other libraries, whether they're about their spaces, how do they handle like their steps and processes for unpacking, packing, do they have kind of like an assembly line set up with multiple people? Is it one person? Just any suggestions, ideas, comments, questions you may have. And it's also good to be on Basecamp because that's where we make our Cardinal related announcements. And when a library pauses resource sharing for one reason or another, for example, we will make an announcement on Basecamp so other libraries know to hold their materials. Heather said, how do we post questions or new discussions on Basecamp? So it depends on if you are, let's show you here. You'll see up here under people, it says if you're on the team or just following. Depending on if you are listed as on the team or just following will determine whether or not you can post questions or new discussions. And Courtney, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but if you are just following, you can read the post, but you can't actually respond or post new threads. I believe you have to be listed as on the team. And if you,
I can clarify that. It's actually, if you are a part of that group, you can post or respond. The on the team versus just following is what kind of notifications you get about the kind of traffic that's there in that group. So if you're just following, you're not going to get all of the day by day email messages.
Thank you for clarifying that. So if you're unable to post on a Basecamp, it could be that you haven't been added yet, or there may be another issue going on, and we would welcome you to submit a help ticket or email us, and we can take a look and see if you are on Basecamp, and if so, what might be the cause of that issue. And that is the end of the, oh, Courtney said she is happy to take a look into Heather's account. I can comment, I just haven't figured out how to ask a question without commenting. Kathleen asked, would it be possible to add the call number to the transit to and from report between the CN prefix and C in suffix. This would be a nice time saver. This is like, let's see here. See, is that an option? Number and label, maybe? You should be able to move that. Let's see. Well, I thought in Angular you could move them. Let's try this way. So you want the call number. So we go up. Actually, that would jump to the top, and then let's see. Okay, why? I'm clearly doing something wrong here. Call number label. Oh, I got the barcode mixed up. There we go. Is that like what you mean, Kathleen? Okay. Yeah, you can adjust the columns and select which ones they show. You'll just want to make sure that once you've made your changes, you click Save Columns. And I thought with the, well, now it seems to be working. You can do it in the Angular by clicking and holding and moving them like that. But it didn't seem to work early. Now it seems kind of finicky as to whether it wants to work or not. But you can always just use this is a little bit more difficult, but it'll let you move them specifically where you want. So we are happy to take any questions you all might have, comments. We have plenty of time, so please feel free to share your thoughts. And you can type in chat, or you're welcome to just speak up. Jamie said, to be sure, only the sending library can make a claim. Yes, that is correct. Robert asked, regarding damaged fees, those only go to the library that collects them, right? If the fee is large, should the patron be encouraged to send it to the owning library? Yes, they go to the library that collects them. Benjamin, I'm going to defer to you about whether or not the patron should be encouraged to send it to the owning library, though, because I know we don't really want money traveling across county lines typically.
I mean, if it's something that, for instance, if a patron loses a book or if a patron damages an item, it's always preferable for them to send that money to the library. You know, it's a bit of a headache and it's not required, you know, but it's always better for them to send the money for lost books and damaged items to the library that own the material. That being said, by policy, it's acceptable for your library, the library that checked the material out through resource sharing, to receive those fines. But it's kind of a, you know, if it's not too much of a burden, it's always a good idea just to try to get that money back into the hands of the libraries that, you know, actually own the material. That being said, it doesn't always go back into the book budget. Sometimes it just goes back into sort of the county general fund or that sort of thing. But anytime we can encourage people to get that money back to who owned the book, it's going to be to the benefit of the library that owned it.
Okay, and Mary asked, we have some old institutional accounts outreach with lost resource sharing items attached. Any advice on what to do in that case?
I think that my best suggestion would be to notify the owners of those. And I realize that may be 12 or 24 different libraries, but letting them know we have these materials that are checked out to these accounts. It's been a while. We don't know if these things are ever going to come back, and allow that library that owned it to decide if they are going to sort of cut their losses and get rid of the material, replace the material. One of the things we were talking about just recently was the number of lost books that are like older than 5 years. And, some libraries may want to just go ahead and sort of, check those materials in, either leave the fines or waive the fines, and, clear those things off of their collection, and figure out whether or not they want to purchase a new copy of it. So I think, yeah, that communication element, again, like Will was saying, just sort of letting the owning library know that this is something that we don't expect to get back. It's been a while, and let them sort of decide if they want to do something to just kind of resolve the issue. But I do think, I guess the other thing I'll mention is that you don't want to, waive lost fines for another library that owns that material. If it's not your stuff, it's not a good etiquette to, to waive lost fines for material owned by somebody else.
Let's see. Jamie asked, is there a way for FedEx to notify the sender when their packages arrive to their destination? If you create the shipment and go down here to add shipment notifications, it says email notifications provide information about the progress of a shipment from label creation through to delivery. Timely updates sent to both you and your supplier will help you to coordinate the shipment of your package. So you would want to add your shipper email address to the shipment when you create it. And you can select what you want to be notified about. Bellipanis, is there any number of days limit before we claim for not received materials? Yes, for undelivered or lost shipments, you have 9 months from the shipment date to file a claim. If they're damaged or there appear to be materials missing from the shipment, you have up to 60 calendar days from the shipment to file a claim. Mary said, and I believe this was in reference to a previous question, I feel like we're obligated to help cover those losses for the owning library. Robert just said, speaking of the notifications, apparently you get a lot. He says he's sitting on 13,000 unread emails from FedEx. They will not notify you if it never arrives. Okay. So that's something to be aware of. Robert also asked, say I ship a box full of materials owned by Henderson County with no items from my library. If the box were to get lost, would my library end up collecting the $100? Yes, the reimbursement check would be sent to your library, not to Henderson. It's sent to the shipping library that files the claim. These are all good questions. Kathleen said, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for attending. And if there's anyone from NC Cardinal who feels like there's something that needs to be shared, please feel free to jump in. Deanna asked, what is the thread called with the resource sharing space photos again? Let me bring up that link. So I just had it. It's show us your resource sharing area. And let me link that in the chat. It's an older thread. It's from back in 2020. But I think the most recent post might have been 2022. Yes.
Will, you were asking if anybody else on the Cardinal team had anything to add. I don't have anything. I think you did a great job. There's a lot to cover here. You know, and you know, I guess I would encourage everybody, if you're not on the Basecamp group for resource sharing, you know, there's a lot of communication that's happening there. You know, if the emails that you get for that are too much, I know for the Cardinal team, we all pretty much keep Basecamp open in a web page, and you know that sometimes is a little bit easier to deal with rather than all of the email notifications clogging up your inbox. So you know that's just really a great resource, and you know we've got a lot of documentation on the knowledge book pages. And of course, anytime that there's information that you're looking for or you have suggestions for, we're always open to adding new information, new pages if necessary, or that sort of thing. So reach out to us and let us know how we can be helpful.
And Robert said, I would also like to point out advanced shipping tracking under the tracking menu at FedEx. It's a handy dashboard for any packages that are still moving around. So to get there, you would click on tracking and then go to advanced shipment tracking. As you can see, we don't have anything here because we don't actually send out any shipments. But that'd be something for everyone to look at. Mary asks, is there a way to repost that share your areas to get new pictures from folks? I know we can bump the thread by putting in a new post, but I don't believe that actually moves the thread up to the top of the Basecamp group. So I suppose maybe make a new thread and link to the page, or make a new thread and ask people to start posting their pictures in the new thread, and we can still link to the old one. Unless Courtney or Benjamin, maybe you all have an idea about how we could best handle that to get more attention to it.
I mean, I'd suggest adding a comment that just says bump and then go back to your resource sharing list and see if it refresh and see if it's at the top or not. That'd be the first thing I'd do.
Let's test that just for. Yeah, I think it'll list it right here that there's a new post, but it doesn't actually move the, well, we could also pin the
That's true.
Go ahead and do that. And now it shows up, there we go, at the top. You're welcome. Well, if no one has any more questions, I think we can probably go ahead and call it, let you all head out a little bit early. Go ahead and stop sharing. And thank you to everyone who attended. And we will, I assume, Samantha, this will be posted in our, probably on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, it usually takes a few hours to get the recording back from WebEx, so I probably won't actually see it till tomorrow morning. And then I got to get it processed up on YouTube. So I'll post on Basecamp when it's ready.
Thank you for doing that.
No problem.
And you're welcome to everyone. We will see you again soon.